Hi, my name is Carly Krug, and you're listening to Let's Bark About It, the podcast, or pawdcast, to help strengthen the connection we have with our dogs.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here.
Here, in my bathroom.
Yeah.
That's funny because you actually have been in the bathroom, though, so you can at least kind of visualize it.
Oh my God, yeah, totally. So I know exactly what the studio looks like, yeah.
The studio.
You were outside and it was raining. You could just reach behind you and turn the shower on.
Yeah, exactly. Got the sound effects and everything in here.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll ask away then.
Okay, Caroline. Let's start with how you came to Canine Flow and what Canine Flow entails.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today, listening to Canine Flow. It's quite a pioneering way of being with dogs, really. And it's come about because 11 years ago, I started running retreats for dogs and owners. And at the time, they were very much geared up. I mean, they still are to a degree, but they were back then very much geared up to energy work with dogs in terms of well-being. So we would meet up for either a long weekend, and then it developed into a week-long retreat, myself and various dogs and owners, and we would learn and practice different healing modalities and understand more about how those healing modalities were working as well with our dogs. And we would also meditate as well with our dogs and go on dog walks. But over the years of running these retreats, I realized that I had quite a unique way of working with dogs in terms of their behavior. And this had really developed from my experience and the different techniques that I trained in and qualified in energy. So rather than only using these techniques for the well-being or the ailment aspects of being with our dogs and caring for our dogs, I was actually using the energy techniques to understand and transform a dog's behavior. And about maybe 4 years ago, I had a lady that was on one of my day workshops, because I also have a couple of books out about nutrition, and I was teaching about nutrition in the UK. And she approached me at the end and she said, this has been a wonderful day. She said, but I want to know how you do the other stuff. And I said, what do you mean the other stuff? And she said, well, how do you change behavior with energy? And I said, okay, this is like, this is just what I do on my retreats. It's not something that I teach other people how to do. Anyway, she got out her checkbook and wrote me a check there and then and handed it to me. It was quite a large amount of money. And she said, you're going to teach me how you do that. I really, really want to know. And really that was like a massive sign I see from the universe to share this work, because it is, it's fundamental to humanity's ascension to understand about how energy influences behavior, which is really what we're ultimately here to do. And as I've been using this work with the dogs, I've realized what a great influential impact it has with the owners as well, and then obviously the people around them, and that has a ripple effect out, so that the owners and the people around them, so basically the dog's household, they're contributing different energy influences into the planet and into our cosmic consciousness, if you like. So I developed this course and called it Canine Flow, really off the back of this lovely lady suggesting that I do so, message from the universe through her to be sharing this workout for dogs, for owners, and for the whole of us as a collective to grow and ascend in a different way. And I called it Canine Flow, obviously because the dogs are related, not just because we work with the dogs and what we do is good for the dogs, but because the dogs are equally here with us for a purpose. And it's almost like they're on a galactic mission, really, to be with us. And they find us. I truly believe that. We don't find them. We might feel as if we go to find them, but they essentially are sticking themselves in front of the owner that they can best help on their mission. And secondly, the flow bit, because it's all about the flow of heart energy, which is like the vital force that flows through your dog. And it's when that vital force is compromised, restricted, stuck in any way, that's when the behaviors that we as humans in our society tend to culturally not want the dog to do. So by working through those restrictions, rather than keeping the behaviors restricted more, which is what we tend to do in positive dog training, as nice as it is, what we do is we actually release those behaviors for the that flow for the dog, and that way influence the behaviors. So it's Canine Flow. And Carly, you came on my USA Canine Flow retreat in Colorado, which unbelievably was almost a year ago.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I keep thinking, whoa, like, what have I done in the 40th year of my life? Oh my God, I went to Colorado. And I just love the fact that this was in Colorado, because I do feel that there's a lot of cosmic energy around that area of the USA.
You did? You felt that when you were here?
Yeah, and before as well. Yeah.
I remember too, you told me, I think maybe it was the first day of the retreat, that you tend to see colors or auras. Can you see that? I read on your website how you work with people, over Zoom or the internet. Are you able to see or feel those colors when you're working with someone over the computer?
It's not something I have ever done over the computer. Interesting question. Yeah, I'm going to try it now. Next time I'm doing a video-based call, maybe I will see. Definitely I can sense the energy when I'm with the dog and the owner.
Yeah.
And that will show up as colors sometimes, because the frequencies, energy is information, and color is simply a piece of information as an energy frequency form. So yeah, sometimes it can show up as color. I think the more I do Canine Flow, the more intuitive I'm getting anyway. So I don't know whether it's showing up to me as much in colors anymore.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And they used to say that dogs only see black and white, but that's not true, right?
Oh no, I can't imagine it is. I mean, you might have to ask a holistic vet on this one exactly, but I'm pretty sure that they are seeing colors. But I'm not sure that do they not see red? I think possibly they don't see. There's one of the colors they don't see. It's either red or green. I've actually temporarily forgotten this, but one of them that they don't see. And I can remember at the time thinking it was funny, because some of these tablets I was giving them in the Dean's range of herbal tablets, I used to think, well, why do they make them that color? That's like the one color the dog can see.
Yeah. Well, isn't red the slowest frequency of colors versus like violet?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. So all the colors are related to chakras in the body, so energy frequency points in the body, which are fully measurable. This stuff's measurable. Everything we work with in Canine Flow is actually measurable. And yeah, the red is a lower frequency, but it doesn't make it any less value, because you need to be grounded. The idea of working with our dogs in any kind of cosmic energy based way is to ground this down into our 3D reality, because it's no good just knowing it. We need to be acting it out in our 3D reality. Otherwise, we're not going to make the influence on the planet that we want to make. We're not going to make the changes we want to make. And the dogs are really here to allow us to bring through our heart energies to make changes. That's really what makes them the happiest, is to know that their mission with us is being heard and that we're making changes. They can feel our heart energy so strong. They feel things. I guess they don't need to see as much because they're feeling all the time what's going on for us emotionally.
Yeah. And say this is the first time, so you've had a dog in your life, but it's the first time you're hearing the word energy. How do you explain that?
Yeah. So, you hear the term everything is energy. Really, everything is moving energy. So thinking of kind of like Einstein's equation, E = mc squared, it's everything is in motion. So it's an energy which is like a piece of information that's in motion or is attempting to be in motion, is attempting to flow. So our whole body is made of emotions that are flowing and changing. We don't feel the same second to second. So throughout a minute, we might feel differently. Now, we can get into patterns of emotions and habits of emotions, or people might say we're stuck in a rut of feeling a certain way. And they almost become us, if you like. But they are really just energy that's trying to move. And it's when it can't move that we start to feel certain patterns or habits, and things don't change and flow so much for us in our life, and our ability to manifest the things we want to or be creative in the way we want to, that ends up being compromised. And what I've noticed also changes is our dog's behaviors. So when our emotions are especially subconsciously stuck in some way, that's when the dog will play out a behavior, because they're showing us that there's something in us that needs to flow again. There's something we need to let go of. There's something we need to release. So yeah, energy is in a sense just information, and sound is an energy. So if you imagine when we're measuring sound, we get like a frequency reader, and it might look like a lot of lines going up and down for different hertz, whatever the frequency we're measuring is. But sound is essentially another form of energy that's measurable. And the Institute of Heart Math have different tools that actually measure emotions in the same way as we would measure sound. So it gives a reading,
Wow.
like a graph with it going up and down. So they have so far been able to measure our emotions coming from our heart, because emotions are heart-based, not mind-based. So they measure them coming from the heart, and so far they've been able to do this 3 foot away from the body. And they feel that if they had better tools, they would be able to measure them further. But even 3 foot is enough to influence your dog, because obviously your dog is generally near you, or they like to be. So, when we're feeling a certain way, our dog is picking that up continually. And usually what they're picking up is our subconscious emotions. So not the things that are happening in that moment that we're consciously aware of. It tends to be the subconscious emotions. So the general idea that you are anxious at the end of the lead and thus the dog becomes anxious, whilst that does have a part to play, what the dogs are really here to show and highlight is what is hidden from our conscious awareness, which is our subconscious emotions. And that's what they'll be playing out in their behaviors. So if the dog is anxious because you suddenly felt anxious, that will actually clear quite quickly, and you were conscious of it. So you're probably then going to make choices and actions that will relieve that from your body in some way. Whereas the subconscious emotions, they will be holding you back from being very creative, manifesting the things you want to do, from ascending, from impacting, living your purpose, from awakening, all these different things that humanity needs to be doing now to make changes on the planet. So the dog will stick themselves in front of you to highlight these subconscious emotions rather than the conscious, I'm anxious and I'm aware of it and I can see my dog is, way of viewing at things.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting because I've been doing a lot of reading and practicing and understanding that when you have a feeling and you go to verbalize it, you're going into your mind to explain things that you're feeling in your heart. and it's not always accurate. So I've tried a few different practices, and I feel like that's a lot of what we did in Canine Flow is, different modalities and practices. And I wanted to ask you if you have tried transformational breath work, and if you feel like maybe that's a piece in your meditation.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I would encourage all dog owners to do, because quite often what we can do is we can be like, whoa, I know that I have got a lot of stuff in there. My poor dog. He's got some work to do, and we can start to immediately go into a pattern or a habit of feeling guilty or fearful in some way. Wow, I've just uncovered, I've listened to this podcast and I've uncovered another layer of stuff that I've got to deal with to support my dog or to help my dog. So what I would encourage is not to go down that route, but to go down okay, there's stuff going on. Where can I release this? How can I release this? And definitely meditation and breath work are going to be there. It's about where are you going to move to now? When you've got the knowledge that you have emotions that need to flow again and that your dog may be showing those up in his or her behaviors, it is just so awesome to use meditation and breath work. So we have something called a primordial point. So every time there is a gap between breaths, so once you've taken a big deep breath in, and then there's that pause before you breathe out. You breathe out, and then there's another pause. So the pause is between what they call your primordial point. And this is like the vastness of space. This is, how many terms could I use to describe it? It's the place where anything's possible or pausable, as we would say in Canine Flow. Trying to use the word pour as much as possible to keep it fun. And because it's got to be fun. Like, we got dogs to have fun, and half the time we end up not having fun because there's so many different limitations and judgments and things coming up through owning the dog. Using breath work to reach that primordial point, that's partly why breath work is working so well. But also, breath and spirit in almost every language are the same thing. I mean, it's not obviously in English, but in most languages, it's the same word. So essentially, when you're using breath work, you're bringing through your true authentic self, your true soul, your true spirit. And that's amazing. You can clear things just by bringing them to awareness and letting them go, and being in that different space where anything's possible, where there is the vastness of space. We don't go into that very often in our busy lives.
No, we don't, for sure. And you almost have to be like bribed to do it, right? I mean, people are like, oh, I don't want to do meditation. And then they read it's like better for your sleep. And they're like, okay, I'm going to do meditation for A, B, C, or D. And then whatever the momentum is, it's like, just keep, give it a try. And I've done a bunch of different meditations, and I've found the ones that really connect with the body resonate with me the most. When I just am focusing on how I actually feel. It's crazy because you think all day and you're, okay, all of a sudden you're tired, you notice your eyes are heavier, but you don't actually like take that moment to sit and really focus in on the physical symptoms, unless it's like the ones that are telling you to go to sleep, drink water. And it's interesting because you'll all of a sudden, you can really tune in and feel even more than you're consciously aware of at that time. But you have to take that space and time to just, let your body be. And so rarely do we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I think with the breath work, it becomes more interesting than just sitting there and waiting for your thoughts to go. It actually, as you said, brings in the whole of the physical body. Yeah, that's why I think breath work is really interesting. It also really does bring you into your heart space, which is so important. And it reconnects with your heart. And then when that starts to happen, the dog feels happier as well, more content.
Yeah, content, calm. Totally. So I keep reading about, the spirit and the soul. We have like emotional versus spiritual. Help me understand the difference between spiritually, emotionally, and energetically. Is there a difference between these three words?
I guess it depends on the context that they're being used in. I mean, energy is, in a sense, information, and it could be spiritual information. Energy will connect you to your spiritual self, and emotion is energy in motion. So I think it probably just depends on the context of the sentence they're being used in. And the thing is, as well, when you're creating an article of some kind, you don't want to keep repeating yourself. Being someone that writes blogs, I can appreciate why people would use different words that essentially do relate back to the same thing.
That makes more sense to me too. Just understanding that energy is motion, and then we can apply that to spirituality or emotional context.
Spirituality, for me, is beyond religion. It's a unification, really, that we all have this ability to be in our hearts. And if we want to follow different practices and give them a label, perhaps it will be a religious label, perhaps it will simply be transformative breath, as the practice you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're doing the same thing because we're clearing subconscious emotions that need to flow again within us. And these emotions can show up as ailments as well. So this is why it's so important to understand the flow of emotions that go through our dogs, because not only are they showing up as ailments, and we've realized a long time ago that by using energy work, we could clear ailments in our dogs, but they show up as behaviors. And very often what can happen as well is a dog is showing a behavior, and we will use a command-based or a management-based way of training them that may even be very nice, and what we feel is compassionate. But what it does is it restricts the dog from doing the behavior or the action it was trying to do, and that way it restricts the dog's energy flow. And that can then get what I would call stuck, or, well, it essentially isn't flowing. So the emotions will be in the body, if you like. They'll become either a cellular memory or they'll become stuck in some way, and that can show up as an ailment. So this understanding of how we need to be allowing our dogs to emotionally express themselves is very, very key within Canine Flow. And really, it's a way of understanding how we can let their vital force, their spirit, their heart energy be expressed, but in a safe way, rather than restricting it in the way we would normally do with positive dog training. Or they would call it redirection sometimes, they would call it impulse control, or teaching the dog to think, or teaching the dog self-control. But all these things are actually very restrictive on a dog's heart energy. And they're pure heart beings, you know, they're here to show us unconditional love, but they're also here to show us the strength of heart energy and to bring that strength out in us. So when we're limiting the dog, we're actually limiting ourselves. So with Canine Flow, what I'd sort of unwittingly created was a way to allow a dog to express and keep its flow going, but in a safe way that fits with our society.
Can you give us an example of a safe way in our society?
Yeah, well, actually, many of us are doing some of the things that we would do in Canine Flow. I mean, it's quite vast. We do things like professional canine hypnotherapy, for instance, but using heart energy, not the mind at all. We have a wonderful thing called the spiral technique. But some of the things that we do in what we're at the moment calling canine enrichment, and at the moment using a mind-based way of description, is actually allowing our dog to express emotionally. And we don't necessarily describe it as that, but that's essentially what's happening when a dog is doing the actions that a lot of these canine enrichment exercises encourage them to do. It's actually expressing its heart energy and its emotions, so you end up with a very content dog. So anything to do with taking something in their mouth is usually very expressive for them and allows them to, what I call, ground their energy. But dogs really love to use their mouth to ground energy, as we know, because some of the behaviors that they do in that way scare us. But this is still heart energy. We have to realize that it's their heart energy. So chewing of course, is one of the things. Lots more sniffing. We need to be allowing a lot of sniffing, like way more than we normally do, because dogs really ground through this area, that the VNO, the nose, the mouth area. They'll really express there. And playing with games, like these interactive games where the dog is using its nose to slide things, even if they're not necessarily finding treats, just by doing this activity, that is enhancing. Licky mats is another one. And all these things at the moment we're describing as the dog is using up its mental energy. But what is in fact happening is the dog is expressing itself emotionally. So it's its heart energy that it's using up. You end up with a very content, happy, calm dog, rather than a dog that's just been overusing its mind. If you create any creature a situation where their mind or their mental side of things is very active, you have the opposite effects. You end up with, say, a child that can't sleep at night, or a dog that's wound up. The mental energy is not something we want to be getting an animal, especially a dog, to be using a lot of. Do you see what I mean? It's the opposite way.
Grounding.
Yeah, and we've basically just got used to describing canine enrichment as something that gets them to use their mind. But in fact, what we're doing is getting them to express their heart energy, and this is wonderful. So there are actually some things that we're already doing within positive dog training, compassionate dog training, that we don't realize are actually related to their heart.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so you talk about the sacred canine heart. Can you go into that?
Okay, so obviously this work really connects you. And what I found has happened over a period of time is I've got incredibly intuitive. I've got connected to a base of consciousness, which I am told, or I am feeling that it needs to be called the sacred canine heart. And this is kind of like a set of frequencies, a set of information that I'm able to tap into, which is the collective of dogs as a species. So it's a little bit like animal communication, but instead of individualizing, so I wouldn't just talk to your dog Wrigley, for instance, I would talk to Wrigley's guides, I would talk to all of the collective consciousness of dogs as a species, and the messages that come through for individual owners is absolutely stunning. I bring these through, and it allows the owner to fully understand why they're seeing the behaviors they're seeing in their dog without even needing to ask the dog. This is like a higher consciousness that I've been able to tap into. And I call it the sacred canine heart because I feel that obviously they're very heart-based animals, and this is sacred energy that we're working with. And over the years, and especially in very recent times, I've been able to understand that this is linked in with the Syrian beings, and the constellation of Orion, and the energies and frequencies that are being sent down to the planet. Right now, at the moment, we're in the middle of some strong Syrian energies that are being sent to the planet. Sirius is the brightest star that you see in the night sky. So most of us have seen it, even if we don't realize we have. And it's labeled our grand central sun because its gravitational effect actually keeps our sun in its position. So on a practical, measurable astrological level, it's vitally important to our planet. So but on an energetic understanding as well, at the moment it's sending some really wonderful electromagnetic waves down to planet Earth. It's very close to us at the moment, and this is influencing us, and it's allowing us as a race to ascend. And I see our dogs sort of sitting back going, whoa, this is so cool. Look at my mum. She's happier than ever, or she's clearing more than ever.
Oh, yeah. And so when you're feeling that collective consciousness, can you sense if there's blocks there from the dogs or from the humans, or
Yeah. Well, what I have cards. I developed a pack of cards.
I saw that. Looks beautiful, by the way.
They're really amazing. I basically channeled them, and I pick certain cards out, and they prompt and support me to be connected to the collective consciousness of the dogs. And they bring through messages. It's primarily for the owner, really, because really we're the ones that need to shift and change on the planet. The dogs are already there, and if they're showing us behaviors that make us feel that they're anxious, fearful, worried, or they're not in this content form, then these behaviors are being shown to us because they're picking up on things that we haven't really subconsciously. So, they're here in front of us to help us ascend. That's their mission, if you like. And they're most happiest and content when we're addressing, releasing these emotions. And the thing is that sometimes when these emotions can come up, they don't necessarily feel good. So we will sort of shove them back down as if to say, I don't want to feel this, I'm not ready for this. But the speed that they will be released now when you're working, especially with something like the sacred canine heart, it is just unconditional love times a million. These dogs are just so here for us. The speed that these feelings can transform and transcend is far quicker than it's ever been. So it's about having the trust, really, to allow yourself to feel that guilt, that sadness, that grief, whatever it might be that you feel when you go there, when you go into your subconscious heart. And once you feel it, right now is like the perfect time or the perfect time to be with your dog and allow that to transcend. We've never been more supported with a PAW. It's just having the trust to actually feel those. Where do I feel them in the body? How can I release them? And they will release. They absolutely will. This is a brilliant time for us now to be feeling and releasing, because it's not until we really bring awareness and allow ourselves to have that full awareness of what a feeling actually is that it starts to transform and transcend. We don't want to keep it inside us. We don't want to keep pushing it down.
Oh, we try, though. We try.
We try
very hard. We're so scared. It's crazy of our own feelings.
Yep. And then our dogs will keep showing us. They will just keep showing us.
And so obviously, I'm totally in agreement with dogs' behavior correlating to our subconscious feelings. What else would you say goes into our dog's behavior? Do you believe in, the personality? Obviously, the physical being is very important in terms of them being healthy. But what else would you say goes into the behavior of the dogs?
So different things can influence behavior, because we're talking about emotions and energy. So, even things like Wi-Fi are going to influence how your dog feels.
Interesting.
So essentially, anything that influences how your dog feels and your dog's flow of vital force. So diet is going to be massive. That's going to have an influence as well. And then essentially what we're looking at is what is going into the dog. In Canine Flow, we have a 3 kind of section way of looking at it. So it's what's going into the dog. So this could be environmental things, as I mentioned, like the Wi-Fi. It could be things that are happening astrologically. If there was a solar flare or if it was a full moon, there's going to be slightly different energies on the planet at the time. So all these different things will go into influence the dog. I do remember one dog that I worked with, and it wasn't until we realized that the lamppost outside the house buzzing was what was influencing him. It was like the last piece in the puzzle, Yeah. And the owner got onto the council and they did something about it, and the behavior completely then shifted. The lady had learnt a lot and the behavior had got better, but it wasn't going, and we didn't know what it was. And it was this, this electrical impulse that was influencing the dog every time it went in and out of the garden gate, and probably could sense it throughout the house, being more sensitive than the rest of the members of the household. So we will look at what's going into the dog in that way. We will also be looking at how the dog is. So as a vessel for light, as a vessel for emotions, and that, we'll be looking at like what is going on for them physically. So that could, as you mentioned, that could be what is going on for them physically. I can't remember your exact words, but we
as
could
a
be
personality.
Okay, yeah. So in a sense, yeah, they do have a personality, and that will influence how they cope with what goes into them. And it's our job really to understand them as beings so that we know their different preferences in terms of expression. So then we come to the third part, is what is being expressed. And importantly, what are we not allowing to be expressed? So what are we keeping in there with our rules and regulations, our shoulds and shouldn'ts, our command-based stuff, our fears ourselves, not allowing the dog to do certain things. So these three aspects really are, for me, what makes up behavior. And they will be individual to each dog. And sometimes they're individual to a certain point in time that a dog did a behavior as well.
Interesting. I read on your blog and I really loved it. It kind of helped me click for things. I've always struggled with using the word boundary and boundaries. Part of me is like, yeah, that's important and it helps create security. And then another part of me is like, is that just forced? And then is that the dog trainer in me that's saying, here's the right way versus the wrong way to do things? And on your blog, I read basically how if you think someone's good at boundaries, they might really just be good at communication and thus connection. And I was like, oh man, that feels way more right in my heart reading that. And I love that piece.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, well, it's so true. You know, when we create a boundary, we do tend to tell somebody. We do tend to say, well, actually, I would quite like this to be the case, or in some way we will learn a way to communicate with our dog, this, what we're calling a boundary, that they should or they shouldn't do certain things, or they can only go so far, you know. But really, we're here, humanity is here, on a journey to unity and equality, and boundaries. Immediately you think of a wall or a fence, you know, it creates separation. And we may feel that, oh, but we need that slight separation, or we need something, because otherwise it becomes overwhelming. So if that's the case, we need to be, in terms of that 3-point way of looking at things, we need to be looking ourselves as a vessel of light. You know, where are we not able to hold light? Where are we not allowing ourselves to flow? Where are we not allowing our emotions to flow? Perhaps we're not being as creative as we used to be as well. So it's like canine guardian enrichment as well as canine enrichment.
Oh, for sure. I definitely feel like Wrigley is a spiritual being and we are connected and each other's guardians, for sure. I feel that.
So boundaries are, I just find it a really interesting word. It's a fear-based word. It's last paradigm, or last paradigm, as I would call it. We don't need it now.
Yeah. And I have people all the time ask me, you know, how is he so well behaved? How did you train Wrigley to do that? And I thought about it and I was like, it's not like I did all this crazy training with him. Like, I didn't stand around a door and go through, you know, the motion of how I want him to ask permission to go through the doors. It was more just like, we make eye contact and he knows when I know it's secure and safe, and then he'll cross the street or he goes to the door. I don't know, it's not necessarily him asking for permission as much as it is just like a knowing, feeling base, like, okay, this is okay. And I know that because my mom knows that or feels that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is interesting. I haven't really done any training with Fusa. I really haven't. We just connected from the moment we met, and it's a unity. And I feel like we flow together as we walk down the road on a walk, or as we're going about our daily business in the house. You know, it's just like an energy flowing together.
Yeah, I love that too.
Because many of the behavior problems that we see with our dogs are related to the dog not being able to connect with us heart to heart. Separation anxiety is a massive one. The irony within separation anxiety is that they can't get you heart to heart when they are with you. So they're left with a lot of ungrounded, unexpressed love, essentially. And when you go out, they definitely don't have anywhere to put it. And they don't even have a focus on trying to express it. So it comes out as a different expression. So it might come out as a sound vibration. And the neighbors will certainly let you know that when you get back. Or it might come out as chewing. And you will know about that when you get back as well, you know. So we look at all different behaviors in a slightly different way to a traditional dog trainer would do.
And I love that, because you're not just saying, hey, let's pick apart the qualities we don't like and figure out a way to change them. It's like, okay, our dog has a message. Let's listen. How can we help us connect in a place where we're understanding and connecting, more than having to say, hey, listen, I got something to say. It's we are in this moment now, and it's okay. It's okay just to be.
Yeah. I mean, with the separation anxiety, it is very interesting, because we can feel like, whoa, you know, but I do love my dog. But that can sometimes be very mind-based love or an attachment-based love. And it's them being able to get to your heart energy. If you've got heart walls, if you've been hurt in the past or even in past lives, there will be something there that needs to be released. And if the dog can't get you in some way, then they will not be able to express themselves. They will not feel that they are supporting you with the PAW, that they are achieving their purpose with you. They end up, when they're not with you, feeling very discontent.
Yeah. And so if you believe in past lives, I do you believe, I mean, obviously dogs have souls and there's a spirituality realm. Do you believe we can Fusa someday be, you know, could you be Fusa's dog someday? Is that a possibility?
Wow, maybe. I don't know if I would go that far. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, perhaps we have. I certainly feel that she's here as a galactic being to remind me. I mean, we're very used to this dogs as our teachers way of discussing. And again, it goes back to that kind of, it's very romantic. The dog is teaching us love. And it's like, whoa, you know, we need to go further than that. Humanity's ready now. The dog is not teaching us anything, because we already know how to love. We know how to love unconditionally, but we just have heart walls over the top of it. So their behaviors and their actions are actually reminders. They actually are reminders rather than our teachers.
I love that.
To our full potential.
Yeah, because all the reading I've done on transformational work and the soul and the spirit and the journey is, we are born, you know, perfect beings. And then through time, we learn different ways to protect ourselves or attach. And if we can get back to that being where we have access to all the information and skill sets and whatever we think we're craving for or looking for externally, and it's all internally there. If we can connect to that, and then again being brought back to that moment, that's a perfect message and reminder that our dogs are here for.
Absolutely. We put up boundaries. We put them up. Like you said, from the day we're born, we start to put these up, and our dogs are here really to help us bring them down, you know, and to trust.
Oh, yeah. So I have a niece and a nephew now who are 2 and 3, and this is my first intimate, like close relationship with children. And it's so beautiful to see how naturally, with like them being even just months old, how interested and drawn to dogs they were immediately. And then, you know, through time, I've met so many people throughout my life who are, you know, distrusting or scared, or even say, I hate dogs. And I'm just like, how does that happen? Because, you know, I see it now as proof, like we are born connected. It's just instantly there. So then something happens, whether we go through a dog, you know, something traumatic, then the mind shifts and then the disconnect happens. So I just thought it was so powerful to see newborn babies just instantly, if you're in a room with them and there's a dog, they're just looking at the dog. It's so obvious that there's like some connection there and some, energy there for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. And children show us so much as well, I'm sure. I mean, I've not had them, but I can imagine that they would show us a great deal about in terms of our ascension process. The thing about dogs, of course, is they have the biggest heart per body mass of any creature on planet Earth. So on an electromagnetic level, I guess they're better placed than your child would be to reflect your subconscious. Although it happens with all of life, our relationships, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, they will all reflect things that are going on for us. But I think for the dog, having that extra electromagnetic connection to us, it's even stronger.
Just beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. So I guess if people want to find out more, I would love to come back to America. I can't believe it's nearly a year ago. So if I do, then anyone listening is obviously welcome to attend the retreat with their dog.
You'll have to come when you came such a weird Colorado time. We have the best weather. And I just remember it was so odd. It was just not the standard Colorado weather. So if you do come back, which you should, even if we just have a trip out to Colorado, hopefully the sunshine will be out more this time.
Yeah. Mind you, it was kind of okay. It made us stay in and work on our dogs more and do spiral work. And, we kind of all bonded a bit in a way, didn't we? Because we were stuck in a room while it snowed outside.
Yeah. Oh, and it like dumped snow. It was like a storm. But it was such a perfect week. That was such a beautiful experience. I'm so humble and grateful for the opportunity. It's really helped guide me in my vision and what I've been trying to accomplish, and just another step in my journey. So I'm really appreciative of having you in my life, and I'm so glad I got to experience the Canine Flow. Really, you were just the one to introduce me to this feeling that I've had. And then I was like, oh, wow. Okay. There's other people out there that feel that too. Right. Like it's not just me.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I felt as well. When I started doing this work, about a year into the course, teaching people how to do it, somebody gave me Kevin Behan's book. And I read this. I was like, oh my God, this guy is like in a really complicated way explaining energy flow in dogs and heart energy flow. And I thought, whoa, like I was so excited. Interestingly, we use completely different methods to allow the dog to express.
Yeah.
Like, as you know, but the theory is just so similar. Wonderful, absolutely brilliant guy.
Oh, for sure. Are there any other books that you would recommend to anyone listening that's interested in learning more about the energy and connection?
Well, the Kevin Behan one, the theory side of things, Your Dog is Your Mirror is the one. I haven't recommended the other one. He uses different methods to me to get the dog to express or to understand the heart energy, what's going on in the dog. So you'd have to make your own decisions about how once you have this understanding. But I think sometimes just having the understanding is enough.
Yeah,
so other books other than him, books on now I've forgotten the name of it now, but there's a book on forgiveness which is absolutely wonderful, and it has a pink cover.
I love that.
Forgiveness is a big part of it. I'd call it pawgiveness, because anything that really supports you in releasing fears or feeling of being a victim or not in control of your choices, that those books are fantastic.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm very much into listening to either podcasts or YouTube videos. Even if I'm not watching them, I'm listening to the lectures. And the things that that are really helping to develop me as a person are then allowing me to understand why my dog is doing the things that she's doing. So it isn't necessarily about finding books that are explaining about dogs. It's about finding books that are explaining about energy and you. And I particularly like the Michael Tellinger videos on YouTube and the Freddie Silver, both of which discuss science, not even at the quantum level, really. It's science that humanity is really just beginning to wake up to, such as the science of sound and the power of sound, and not just sound as a healer, but sound as the method of even transport, sound frequencies as energies that we can harness and use as energy to fuel things. So yeah, this is what I'm into at the moment. This is what I'm
I love that.
Learning about at the moment. There's a massive wide world of frequency out there, and if we've just started learning about things like angels or Reiki or energy techniques for dogs that might help with ailments, we've just scratched the surface, and even that's exciting, so it's just phenomenal what's out there to learn. And as we grow and ascend, these different things will come into our lives. Well, very often our dog will pull us towards meeting somebody in the park who turns out to be a really awesome person that we learn so much from, even in just a little chat in the park. So the dog always knows who it is that you're going to benefit from chatting to.
Oh, 100%. Wrigley does that all the time. And Caroline, if we want to buy those oracle cards, where can we find those?
Oh, the Sacred Canine Heart cards. Yeah, they're in my shop. So either on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/lovewoof-and-wonder, or just on my website, which is canineflow.com or thespiritualdogtrainer.com. So if you're in London, I don't know where your people are, but you never know, you might visit London. There's a fantastic holistic bookstore called Watkins Books, and they're stocked in there as well. It's quite
wonderful. I really want to get out to London, so if I ever do that, I'll coordinate with you and see if you're going to be out there. How often do you go to London?
I'm going back to England now to run my 2 retreats in September, and then I will be back again in November to be there for Christmas, throughout December, November.
Wonderful. Well, lovely as always. It's a complete honor to just speak with you. We have a way with words, and you're so graceful and compassionate, and really can feel that when you're speaking with you. So I just am really appreciative of your time and your energy.
Oh, thank you.